Okay, so I am very happy to have with me on the Guitar Channel John Norum himself. So John, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm very good. The sun is shining.
Yeah. You are pretty lucky because we have until now a pretty lousy month of May, so the weather is nice. You're lucky.
Oh, yeah.
What was your first guitar, John?
My first one I ever had,
Yeah.
that was an acoustic guitar. It was my mom's guitar, actually. She gave it to me when I was about 9 or 10 years old. And I can't remember really the name of it, but I think it was like Tesco or something like that. You know, it's like old, very old, maybe from the 50s or something, But the first electric guitar was an Arbeiter.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you are a very famous rock star, so I'm not going to ask you to resume all your career, but if you have to pick some very important date, what would they be? A couple of very important turning point for you?
Well, the turning point, when I started out, was, hearing Made in Japan with Deep Purple. A friend of mine from school had the album, and we went home, in the lunch break when we were at school, we went home to his house. We went to his house, actually, and he played me Strange Kind of Woman, and that made that's when I decided I wanted to start playing electric guitar and start learning to play solos and stuff. Mm-hmm. So it really started out with Richie Blackmore, he's a big influence on me. So that was a big thing, and then later on, of course, when I was in the studio for the first time and recorded my first album, I was only 14 years old, and it was just pure luck, really, because my stepdad was a drummer in the band, and they needed a couple of guitar solos for the album, and they asked me to do it.
Okay. Because you were cheap, or just available?
Well, because he was my stepdad, probably, but he listened to me practicing at home and stuff like that, and said, "Yeah, you're really good. You have something special." And so I got to, go in the recording studio for the first time, when I was 14. So that was a big moment. The band was called Eddie Medusa and the Roaring Cadillacs. So. You want more?
Yeah. And right from the start, it was a studio experience for you, or were you already a gigging musician here and there?
Well, we did some. I had a band in Sweden, if you can call it a band, I don't know, but it was me and a friend of mine. He was a singer, and we had a drummer, which actually was Tony Reno, the original drummer in Europe, who did the first 2 Europe albums, and the name of the band was Dragonfly. Which came from a song from Frank Marino. Frank Marino's Mahogany Rush. He had a song called Dragonfly, and so we thought it was a cool name, and so we did like a lot of small clubs and stuff like that in the Stockholm area, And we didn't have a bass player at the time, and we didn't think we needed one really. We thought we sounded great anyways. Okay. So we were kind of like the first White Stripes, if you like, So and from then on, I met Joey and then the rest is history,
And so you just mentioned Richie Blackmore, so I guess he is an influence for you. Any other guitar player or musician who has a big impact on your playing?
Yeah, also Michael Schenker was, is a big influence. And my stepdad had brought home, he's actually working at a record company too, and he had, a big record collection. And he brought home the UFO album, No Heavy Petting. And that was the first time, that thing came out in 1976, I believe. And that was the first time I heard UFO and the first time I heard Michael Schenker. And I was totally lost, So I've learned every Michael Schenker solo from that album, and just start practicing like crazy. So Michael Schenker is a huge influence. He's one of the greatest guitar players of all time, I think. And then, of course, Gary Moore, I was listening to him a lot, when he joined Thin Lizzy and stuff, and did Black Rose, So it's mainly those 3 guys, Richard Blackmore, Michael Schenker, and Gary Moore. Those are the main 3 big influences on me, As you can hear, on every album I've done, you can hear it, where it comes from, basically.
Let's talk a little bit about the solo album you released 2 years ago. I received it so in 2010, and there are a lot of very powerful songs in there. Is it easier for you to work on a solo album because you are the boss and you decide everything, or is it more difficult because you are the boss and you have to make all the choices?
No, I mean, I think I enjoy doing solo albums. I've done it for a long time. I did my first one in 1987. And I've done I don't know how many now. I haven't counted really, but 8, 9, something like that. And it's just something I enjoy. It's nice to do, to be the producer. And I'm very interested in producing and engineering with sounds and things like the mixing. And I get to, have fun on the side of Europe. Europe is great. It's my main priority. But I just can show a different side, I mean, I can show some more, if I want to have 10 instrumental songs, I can have that,
Mm-hmm.
So it's good to be your own boss sometimes. And, I do the singing myself and write most of the material. And so it's just a fun thing for me to kind of play out a little bit,
So, do you compose specifically for your solo album and for Europe, or you just compose and then you decide, okay, maybe it's going to be more a Europe song, or maybe I'm going to keep this one for myself?
Well, kind of. If it is too, the most of the stuff that I do is kind of blues based. It's kind of like blues, hard rock, or blues rock stuff that I do these days. I mean, I've done even metal and all kinds of stuff. But, I usually just kind of, if it's a great song and I think, it's more kind of a melodic hard rock song, I think of it as a Europe song. I send it to Joey and he listens to it and then he, put the vocals on there and write the melodies and everything. So, yeah. So, I know usually what I'm going to use on my own stuff, and for the Europe stuff it's a little different,
So let's talk about Bag of Bones, the latest Europe album. Is there a specific story behind it, behind how it was recorded and so on?
Well, it's a little bit different to what we've done in the past. I mean, in the past we pretty much done it like every kind of modern band does it. You go in the studio and you put the drums down first, and then the drummer leaves after 3 or 4 days, and then you put the bass on, and then guitars and so on. This time around, the way Kevin Shirley works is that he likes to record the whole band in one room all together, like they did in the old days. Like in the 60s and the 70s, they all used to stand in one room with headphones on. It's like the old school style, and so he likes to work that way, and so that was really kind of new for us. We never done that before. I mean, we've been in the studio recording everybody at the same time, but we've never been in the same room really. We've all been in different rooms, and usually we're just there to be, guide for the drummer to get the drums down, because we're only listening to the drums basically. And when he's done, he leaves, and then we start adding the overdubs on it. So this time around, it was pretty much like, we did 5-6 takes of each song, just like they did in the 60s, like Beatles and Rolling Stones and people like that. They did it that way, And then we just listen through all the takes, and then we pick the one that we like the best, So it's very like old school, which is fun,
So maybe that's why in the end the sound of the record is so powerful, so strong. Maybe it gives some kind of a unity, maybe less overproduced, but a very deep, like strong song.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we've done like thousands of shows by now, and we are good. I always thought we sounded better live when I listen to live recordings and stuff. I always thought they sounded better and had more feel to them than the actual studio albums that we made. So I mean, that's why this album has more life to it, in a way. So it's what you hear is the real thing. It's nothing is fixed afterwards. So it's not these days you can do whatever in the Pro Tools. You can fake it, to make it sound good, but this is actually the real deal. This is the way the band sounds live.
And on some songs, there is a very strong deep purple flavor because of the mix of the guitar and the keyboards. And how do you decide who is playing what on the between the guitar and the keyboard? Do you split the spectrum and you say, okay, I'm going to play this and you're going to play there, or it's whatever the song, whatever fits the best?
Well, every song is going to have a guitar solo, you know, and we might. Sometimes we forget. That's right. We want to have Mick do a solo on the keyboards as well. And it's nothing. It's not something we analyze that much. It's just kind of whatever fits the song the best. That's what we're gonna do. If it needs like a keyboard solo, we're gonna do a keyboard solo. But every song always has a guitar solo. And that's when Kevin comes in as a producer. He's very good at arranging things, so everybody's happy and stuff.
And so, is it the same like working with another guitar player, or because it's a keyboard player, it gives a completely different perspective?
Yeah, I worked with another guitar player, but just once before. I've done one album with another guitar player, a great guitar player from Texas. His name is Billy White, a great guy. And that was, I did an album in the beginning of the 90s with Don Dokken called Up From the Ashes. So that was a new experience for me, to work with another guitar player. It was kind of interesting, But Europe has always had just one guitar and had the keyboards. And I guess we complement each other really well, Mick and I. We don't we leave some space for each other to do what we want to do and things like that. So it's just a natural thing. We've done this for such a long time now that we don't have to discuss or talk about anything. Really, it just happened naturally.
And so, do you think on stage you need to have a keyboard player with you from now on, or you would be able, I don't know, to front a power trio, or something would be missing for you?
Totally. Mick is such a big, important part of this band. It's amazing. People don't know, how big he is. It's like his sound is huge, for this band. When we have rehearsed a couple of times without him, because he couldn't make it or whatever, we have children and sometimes you can't make it, but sometimes other people in the band wants to rehearse and we rehearse without the keyboards. And then it's just like, it's a huge, missing link there, obviously we can't do any stuff from the 80s, we can't play, the Final Countdown or Carrie or anything like that, the keyboard is such a big part of that. And even now, when he plays Hammond organ now, and that it just makes the sound so much bigger and fatter, It's like you take Deep Purple and you take the organ out. It's like there's nothing there.
Yeah.
It's like empty.
You just talked about the Final Countdown, and this was one of your biggest mega hit. How do you recover from making such a big hit? Do you have always a record company asking for another Final Countdown? How do you survive that, if you survive it?
I don't know, because I wasn't around at the time. I did the Final Countdown. That was my last album, in the 80s with Europe, and I decided to do something else because I didn't like the way the band was going in the direction. I just hated the 80s anyways, the whole bubblegum teeny bopper thing, and the image and the productions were horrible, so what I did after that, I did a solo album, it came out in 1987, and I could just do whatever I wanted to do, and after that I joined Dokken and moved to America for a while. And so, but I guess the other guys probably had that pressure, from the record company. I fortunately for me, I didn't have to, deal with it. Okay. I that's the way it goes. I was fortunate. I quit at the right moment. I didn't have to feel any pressure from anybody.
So you would say the Europe band you are playing in right now is in the better direction for you, or you fit better with the style you have now, the style you have now?
Yeah, definitely. When we started again in 2004, and we released Start from the Dark, I mean, that was like, it was great. I mean, it was very guitar-oriented, heavy stuff that I love to play, you know. And so everybody has matured and you know, grown men now. No egos or anything like that. So it made it really easy to make that album. And now we are playing, you know, good old, you know, hard rock, melodic hard rock, you know, like, you know, the bands we grew up with in the 70s did. And this is like the best period ever, you know.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk a bit about how you were able to get your guitar tone on the record. What were the secret recipe you used, the secret guitars or amps? Tell us everything, John.
Yeah. All right. I will tell you everything. It's nothing special, really. I mean, it's first of all, I think it starts with just you know, it's mainly in your fingers, you know, to make a tone. I mean, the way you sound, you know, the guitar is such a, you know, how do you say it, like a sensitive instrument or whatever. You know, just the way you touch the strings or whatever, it can make you sound like everybody has their own sound, you know. I mean, if you have Richard Blackmore or Eddie Van Halen playing through my rig, you know, my guitar, my amp, it wouldn't sound like me, it would sound like them, you know. And the same if I did the same thing. So it usually starts with the finger and the way you press the strings and how do you hit the string or whatever. But the equipment I use is mainly, you know, Marshalls, you know, it's like everybody else is using pretty much. And it's mainly like 50 watts. I like the 50 watts. So it's JCM 800s, 50 watts. And also one 50 watt silver anniversary head. And then it's mainly Gibson Les Pauls. I have a couple of customs and a few standards. Custom shop, and you know, not a lot of pedals. I have 3 pedals, the same pedals I've used for like 10 years now. You know, I'm not really into effects that much. Never been really, but there's a carbon copy analog delay, MXR, yeah, and then it's MXR stereo chorus because I use 2 amps live. You know, so I go in there to have it in stereo. You know. The chorus, I mainly use the chorus for like clean stuff. I don't use it so much, you know, on the overdrive, you know, sound. And then it's a Jim Dunlop, Jimi Hendrix wah-wah pedal. So it's those 3, you know. So mainly, you know, it just it's a sweet tone. The 50 watt gives it a very nice, sweet tone. You know, I like 100 watts as well. I use 100 watts on this album as well on like some of the rhythm stuff. But on the solos, it's mainly 50 watts, Marshalls, you know.
So all the gain we hear on the record are coming from the amp. You don't have an extra overdrive or booster in front of the amp.
No, nothing like that. I'm not into that. I have like bunch of them at home, you know. I have like, I don't know, 50 distortion pedals, you know. People kept giving me them over the years for the last 25 years or so, you know.
So you have some kind of museum of overdrive at home?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and I don't know what to put them in. They're all over the place, you know. I mean, it's like old tube screamers and everything. I mean, every pedal that's ever made, I got. But I never used any of them, you know. It's just like, all the overdrive, because the amps that I use, the anniversary, for example, it already has built-in inside the amp. So it's kind of like, it kind of is like an overdrive pedal, but it's built inside the amp, you know. And because I don't like to mess around with it on the floor and all that stuff. I like to just take the cable straight in, you know, I like that. So, yeah, the gain just comes from the amp, you know.
And so regarding guitars, you are very famous to play with Les Paul, as you just mentioned. Are you from the school that you say that, okay, I need, 57 Les Paul Sunburst to be able to play my stuff, or just me a good custom shop and I will do the job?
Yeah, you know, I'm not that picky really. I mean, you know, a good custom shop or even just a normal Gibson USA, you know, is fine. I mean, one of the main guitars I have right now is it's a Les Paul Custom from 2001, and it's not a custom shop or anything. It's no, nothing. It's just a regular one, you know, bought in the store. You know, I picked it up and I played it, and I was like, wow, you know, this one. And I compared it to a lot of the other guitars they had in the store. and this one sounded better than all the custom shops and everything. So it's just a matter of finding a good piece of wood, basically. Because all the guitars are different, so it's just a good piece of wood, and it doesn't have to be expensive or anything.
And do you use, or do you have any special trick to get your tone when it is set up between the guitar and the amplifier, but to get it recorded to hard drive? Any special microphone you used, or do you use several mics to have that?
I use 2 mics on one speaker. I usually, I have a cabinet which is around. It's an old Marshall cabinet it's a gray front from 71 or 72. It's actually an old bass cabinet. It's the one that Jimi Hendrix used to use. They're a little bit more bottom. I think it's 30 watts Celestion speakers in it. They give it a little bit more bottom than the regular ones, 25 watts. And I like to listen. Now I know which one is the good one in there. But it's a top one to the right. That's the one I use. And I listen to all the speakers, and I pick the one that I like the best. And then I just put a Shure 57, kind of a little bit close to the cone, And then it's a Beyer Dynamic 69, a little bit on the side. So it's those 2 mics, right next to each other.
And after that, you mix both sources depending on the sound you want to get? Or?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, you just pretty much just have to put them up, even level on both of them, The 57 is a little thinner sounding, but it gives it some kind of compression, which I like. And the Beyer Dynamic has more bottom, it gives it that round, big, fat sound, and it's a bit cleaner too, So that's Kevin Shirley taught me this.
To go back to your career, I mean, how do you keep the fire lit up? How do you keep the passion from one day to another, from one gig to another, from a record to another? How do you have a secret to keep your inspiration going on?
Not really. I mean, it's just I don't have to work very hard at it. For me, it's never been like a job or anything, and I never done it. It goes way back in my family. It's like my grandfather was a guitar player, and my mom played guitar. All my uncles play guitar. My family is very big, and all my cousins now, they are in different bands and playing guitar. So it's kind of in the genes, so to speak. So for me, it's never been something that I have to force myself to do. Actually, the other way around. I mean, I haven't really had a choice. It's just. I say this, that I didn't choose the guitar chose me.
Okay.
So I kind of picked it up at an early age, and I just started playing it, and it became like an obsession, And I haven't stopped since then, and it's still as fun today as it was, 30 years ago. Yeah.
Any word of wisdom to share with a young guitar player?
Well, just just keep at it. I mean. Don't let anybody bring you down. I mean, anybody can be a great guitar player, I mean, and the way I did it was, I guess maybe it was a little easier for me at the time. Because at the time when I started, in the early 70s, I mean, there wasn't, well, I don't know if it's easier, but there wasn't much else to do, really, It was like, what are you going to do, with your time, So I just sat home and practiced all day and played to learn songs, from albums and, Jimi Hendrix stuff and Michael Schenker stuff and all that. And these days it's more, people are a lot more into computers and, PlayStation 3 and all that stuff. They're wasting a lot of time on that stuff. But at the same time, when you have the computer, you can learn stuff from watching, on the internet or whatever. You can learn. But I don't think you can learn... the passion and the feel from that. You can learn scales and all that kind of stuff. But I suggest you go back and start from scratch. Listen to, John Mayall's Blues Breakers. I did that a lot. There was Eric Clapton did the first one. That's like the rock guitar Bible, I should say. It's very bluesy. And learn the basics first. And then when you learn the basics, and you have the second one, which was Peter Green, so it's Peter Green and Eric Clapton. Those are the main guys. It's not very complicated stuff, but it's a good start, to start there, and then you can just progress from there up till, like Strangers in the Night with UFO is also one of those great albums just to play along with and learn, those songs and the Michael Schenker stuff, and then I think it's very important to try to develop your own style from there on, As soon as you learn the basics from these guys, then you should try to develop your own style and move on and try to do your own thing, I think that's very important. Otherwise, you're just a copy of somebody else, and that's not so much fun,
Okay. Well, thank you very much, John. I wish you all the best for this album, and I guess for the upcoming tour. I think you will be playing in Paris sometimes this fall, right?
Yeah, we're gonna be here in I can't remember. It's in November, I think.
It is
November. We have 3 or 4 shows in France, and we're looking forward to coming here again. So we're looking forward to seeing everybody out there, and I hope everybody enjoys the new album, Bag of Bones. It's a great album.
Yeah, it is. Thank you very much for your time again, John. Thank you.